6 o'clock.
Okay, I think. Let me just refresh this. Is there like a slight delay between YouTube and StreamYard? Because technically.
Yes, I see we're live. We're live. So hello everyone. And
Hello.
Flutter Riga is on the air with Flutter is in the air meetup. I'm sorry for being cringy in the first 30 seconds of the meetup already, but welcome everyone to our second meetup. And this meetup will be more beginner oriented for people who are just interested in starting out with Flutter, in learning of experiences of other people who have already tried Flutter, and yeah, basically also for us to spread the love for the framework that we all love. And who is Flutter Riga? So Flutter Riga is us, as you can see, the organizers on the screen, and we are a group of Flutter enthusiasts with a passion for Flutter and community. And we have been to a lot of conferences together, and that's why we got also inspired to host our own events. Currently, they're online, but stay tuned today for some information on more things coming up. And I'm Daria. I'm the Flutter Riga organizer. I'm a Flutter developer for the last 4-something years. I've developed many apps and I continue developing with Flutter to this day. It's my favorite framework of all time. And I'm also a community lover because I'm a Flutterista, Women Tape Makers ambassador, and a Google developer expert for Flutter and Dart.
Right, hello everyone. My name is Raitis. I'm a native ISM Flutter developer. I have created some cool apps, a cool game as well called Orbit Guard. If you haven't tried it out yet, you could do it. Yeah, that's it about me. Obviously, my favorite part of the Flutter is community, engaging with community and people in general.
Hello, I'm Igors, a mobile developer with over 10 years of experience. I started out initially as a native Android development and like for the past 3 years focused mostly on Flutter. And yeah, the community here is one of the best. So yeah, that's also one of my favorite spots. So yeah, hello everyone.
And nice to see you all being active in the comments. Also, would be cool if you would write in the comments if this is your first time attending a Flutter Riga event, or if not, also please write that in the comments. And the next question is, where is Flutter Riga? Because Riga is maybe a city that you have not heard of before, or maybe you have, but Riga is the capital of Latvia, and Latvia is a small country, well, kind of small country in the northeastern part of Europe. You can see it on the globe. And Riga is the capital of Latvia. And yeah, also along with Latvia, you may have heard of Estonia and Lithuania, the Baltic countries, where I believe we also now have Flutter Tallinn and Flutter Vilnius. I'm sorry, if Mangird is listening to me right now, he will probably strangle me, but Flutter Vilnius, I believe. So we have Flutter Meetup Network in every Baltic country right now, which is amazing. And as I said, what is Flutter Riga? It is part of the Flutter Meetup Network, which is a global initiative by Google, already consisting of 149 groups in 66 countries and almost 85,000 members, which is amazing. So if you're not from Riga, from some other city or country, you can check out the Flutter Meetup Network on the Meetup website and see if there is a group near your location, because it's cool to participate in local groups because they host offline events and you can participate in person, and it's also a great opportunity to network and to learn from the experts. And we have a couple of goals by being part of the Flutter Meetup Network and the community builders in general, is to, of course, share the knowledge. We invite knowledgeable speakers to share their experience, to share their findings about Flutter, to share them with you so that you can learn from them. Also, of course, we're building a community. We're building a local community here in Latvia, in Riga, but also a global one online, because that's what internet gives us, opportunities to build globally, and it's amazing. And of course, we value diversity and inclusion. It's a very important value of ours. So please be nice to everyone and treat everyone like you would like to be treated yourself. So yes, remember to be a human being. And a couple of news about the upcoming events. So we are going to be pretty active this spring with already another online event coming up soon. It will be a Flutterista special on March 28th in the honor of International Women's Day initiative. So stay tuned for that. Follow us on Meetup to subscribe to the event. And also a very important milestone for us, we're going to host our first offline event in Riga in late April, early May. We are talking to the venues. It's coming. It's almost completely done. So stay tuned for that. And of course, more. And if you want to become a speaker online or offline, if you're in Latvia or in Riga specifically, please contact us. And you can contact us by many means, by following us on X, also known as Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Meetup, on Discord, and also by email. And the agenda for today is the keynote that is kind of already coming to an end. And then we'll have our great speakers, Jans and Manuela, who will share their experience for you, for beginner Flutter developers. And what is important for today, and especially important for today, is to ask your questions. Please ask your questions with a Q prefix in the YouTube comments, because this way it will be easier for us to find your questions and higher chance to notice them and ask them to the speaker. And the best questions will win a full access ticket to Flutter Global Summit 24 conference, which will be in the end of February. It's a great conference with 2 tracks, junior and senior track, and full access ticket gives you both access to the senior track and also to the recordings, to the internal platform, and so on. So it's a very great opportunity to learn even more about Flutter and very interesting topics. Go check out the agenda. And with that, we can start with our speakers.
All right. Let me quickly remove all of you from the stage. And today's first speaker is Jans. I'll let him tell about himself and his journey with Flutter. But what I can add from my side is that it has been a real pleasure seeing firsthand how someone of his caliber adapted Flutter with such an open-mindedness, excitement, and enthusiasm. And hopefully today he'll be able to inspire other specialists who are using other technology stacks to do the same, to try out Flutter. So without further ado, hello Jans. I'll just go and the stage is yours. Good luck.
Thanks, Raitis. So hello, Flutter and iOS enthusiasts. I hope you have a wonderful day. My name is Jans, and I'm excited to be here today to talk with you about my recent experience with Flutter. So let's get started. So a little bit about me. I've been in mobile app development for quite a long time, a bit over a decade, primarily focusing on native iOS applications. Currently, I'm part of the Chile teams, and recently I did my toes into something new called Flutter. And I would like to share my experience and first impressions with you. When not working on mobile apps, I love to go cycling, whether it's on roads, gravel, or trails. Also, this is my first time giving a tech talk, so I would really appreciate any feedback from you guys. Just a quick note before we dive in. Everything I'm about to share comes from my own experience and doesn't represent my employer's views. For the iOS devs here, I'm not trying to sell Flutter to you. I'm just excited to share something cool and maybe get you curious about trying out something new. Think of it like adding an extra tool to your toolbox. And for my Flutter friends, why not take a peek at the native side? You might uncover cool ideas to take over and enhance your Flutter projects. So let's all keep our minds open and see where this adventure takes us. Let's start by exploring Flutter's definition by its creators. This is how it's described on the webpage. Flutter is Google's portable UI toolkit for creating beautiful, natively compiled applications for mobile, web, and desktop from a single code base. Flutter works with existing code, it's used by developers and organizations around the world, and it's free and open source. Flutter is built with C, C++, Dart, Skia, a 2D rendering engine, and Impeller, the default rendering engine for iOS. For the Flutter developers, the primary language and interaction is Dart. It's really cool to see this product backed up and used by a large and well-known company such as Google. And what makes Flutter unique, you might ask? There are multiple cross-platform solutions. Flutter is different than most other options because it doesn't rely on web browser technology, not the set of widgets that ship out of each device. Instead, Flutter uses its own rendering engine to draw widgets. And Flutter ships with a set of high-quality material design and Cupertino-style widgets, layouts, and themes. Of course, these widgets are only a starting point because Flutter is designed to make it easy to create your own widgets and customize the existing ones. Flutter has made app development both easier and more enjoyable thanks to its compatibility with a variety of tools and environments. It works well with popular programs like Visual Studio Code and Android Studio. They're official plugin for both of these IDEs, and as far as I know, these are the most popular and powerful IDEs at the moment, so we have nothing to complain about. I decided to go with IntelliJ IDE primarily because I was looking for a fresh experience, something I don't use every day, and I must say I've been thoroughly enjoying it. Let me explain why it's been such a great fit for me. First and foremost, its refactoring tools are top-notch. Other iOS developers might understand why I hold this feature in such a high regard. It simply works flawlessly. Secondly, the presentation of things within IntelliJ is exceptional. Take, for instance, the seamless and rich integration with source control, test runner, and custom scripts. I don't have to switch out to IDE to perform tasks. Everything is right at my fingertips. Even if something is not there, the console is conveniently available within the IDE. We all know starting up the IDE, setting up the new project just to quickly test something up can be a bit of a hassle. But even that isn't the issue. Dartpad allows for rapid experimentation with both Dart and Flutter online in just a few seconds. Plus, a lot of the Flutter documentation includes interactive Dartpad examples, enabling you not to only view the examples, but also play with them and interact with them. One additional feature that I have been pleasure of experiencing for the first time with the Flutter and Dart is Copilot integration. I found it particularly helpful, especially when dealing with a lot of boilerplate code. Finally, I want to highlight DCM. Dart Code Metrics is the customizable linter that promotes consistency across project and minimizes needless commentary on pull requests. It's not free, but I found it incredibly useful. Moving from tools, let's dive into the UI components that Flutter provides straight out of the box. As mentioned earlier, Flutter comes with a comprehensive collection of quite high-quality material design and Cupertino-style widgets. However, there's slight caveat when it comes to iOS-style widgets. They reassemble native iOS counterparts but are rendered within the Flutter. Essentially, they're similar but not entirely identical to their native counterparts. In the slide here, you can see just a small selection of the built-in Cupertino-style widgets, but rest assured there's much broader range available. As for material design components, from the perspective of someone who isn't primarily an Android user, they appear quite polished and well integrated. At this stage, I can't speak to their pixel-perfect accuracy, but they certainly made a good first impression. When it comes to building user interfaces, Flutter takes a declarative approach to UI construction, which is somewhat similar to SwiftUI, but with the notable differences. In Flutter, everything revolves about the widget, whether it's the text, button, or even the padding. Each UI component is a widget. Controversially, SwiftUI employs views like text and button, etc., and utilizes the view modifiers such as padding. For state management, Flutter uses setState method within stateful widget to manage its local state changes. SwiftUI uses property wrappers like state for local state management, automatically updating the view when the state changes. Both are quite similar, and that's a positive aspect. The more the basic concepts reassemble each other, the lower the entry barrier becomes. Maybe someone noticed that in the first example, SwiftUI code looks a bit different than actual Swift code. SwiftUI acts as a DSL for UI development. This means it extends with specific constructs and syntactic sugar tailored for UI design. These extensions are not part of the core Swift language, but are provided by the Swift UI framework to streamline UI development. In simple terms, this DSL attempts to reduce the boilerplate and improve UI readability and reducing the clutter. And the second example, there are two Flutter widgets. A stateless widget in a Flutter is a widget that does not require mutable state. In other words, it does not change over time. A stateful widget is used when you have a part of the UI that can change dynamically. Widgets like sliders, text fields, checkboxes, or any interactive or data-driven content often require a stateful widget. Basically, these two widgets on screen will draw very similar UI. Basic a text and a button, and when user interacts with the button, the text will change. So let's explore one of the coolest features, at least in my book, a hot reload. It's truly a game changer. Any changes you made to the current widget are immediately reflected on the device, providing a seamless development experience. With hot reload, you can tweak your code on the fly without the hassle of recompilation. It's incredible time saver and a tool that makes exploring Flutter's functionality a delightful experience. However, there's important to note one drawback. Be mindful of the debug banner at the top right corner of your app. While in this mode, it serves as a reminder that the performance might not accurately represent that of the final release app. As someone who prefers to stay within a single environment and keeps their hands glued to the keyboard, I often rely on the simulator for testing most simple UI and interactions. And as an iOS developer, I use iOS Simulator. I already know a lot of shortcuts to change the theme, tweak accessibility settings, and etc. Unfortunately, in this debug mode, the simulator isn't performing very well for me. For example, animations and interactions with text fields are not smooth, and I hope that will be improved in the future. But so far, I really enjoy working with Flutter, and I must say, it has left quite an impression on me. The framework itself is intuitive, and the development environment is top-notch. However, as a Swift enthusiast, I found myself grappling with Dart. Yes, it's open source, type safe out of the box, but it's different from what I used to, and even the return of the semicolons caught me off guard. I will offer some examples a bit further down the line. Now that you have some insights into Flutter and its related components, let's dive into particular examples. For the project I worked on, there was only one design for both platforms, and quite a lot front-end business logic. In my book, that's a match made in heaven for Flutter. Probably one of the hardest things to choose from when starting a new Flutter project was already pre-selected for me. And a project was built with a block state management library. Additionally, I had the opportunity to explore multiple non-basic features like Flutter's bridge to the native side, known as method channels. If you ever find yourself needing this functionality, I highly recommend exploring talks on how to leverage the Pigeon framework. It's a great tool for creating type-safe interfaces, although it's where the notion of write once, run everywhere doesn't quite hold up. I also created an iOS extension for the Flutter app, and that wasn't that hard and actually is well documented. To be completely honest, at this point, I stumble upon only one limitation that I believe is worth mentioning. It seems that integrated packages based on flavors isn't currently supported in Flutter. For example, if you want to incorporate support from some other store, for example, Huawei Store and Google Store, and use their own mapping libraries. Currently, you cannot ship app with only one bundle. Basically, you need to incorporate both libraries and select the available map library on the runtime. So we briefly touched upon this concept in the previous slide, and it's worth diving into further, just because it always mentioned together with a hybrid development. The idea of write once, run anywhere can be both true and false depending on various factors such as project design, technologies used, and complexity. In my opinion, opting for Flutter makes sense in scenarios where we aim to minimize platform-specific code and maximize code-based reusability. However, it's essential to consider the nature of the project. If there's a significant amount of platform-specific code, Flutter might not be always the optimal choice and could tilt the scales in favor of other solutions. Here's what I'd like to share my perspective. While Flutter excels in providing consistent UI across the platforms, it might not be ideal choice for apps heavily reliant on native components and styling. In my opinion, Flutter truly shines where there's single custom design for both platforms within a mobile project. In such cases, the right one run anywhere concept holds true, at least until the point where integration with the native APIs becomes necessity, but your experience might vary. Let's explore some features I missed and would be excited to see integrated into Dart from the Swift. Swift adopts very explicit error handling model that uses throw, try, and catch keywords. Functions that can cause errors must explicitly declare this by using the throws keyword. This makes error-prone code paths clear to the caller. When calling a function that might throw an error, you must use try in front of the call. Handling errors is then using do-catch blocks, where errors thrown in the do block and caught in the catch block. This approach encourages developers to actively think about handling errors, contributing to safer, more predictable code. Dart's error handling model is somewhat more flexible and less strict than Swift's, with a distinction between exceptions and errors. Dart uses exceptions for indicated errors that can be caught and handled. There's no need to mark a function with any special keyword to indicate it might throw an exception. Similar to Swift, Dart also uses try and catch for catching exceptions. However, because Dart functions don't need to declare if they throw exceptions, any function call can be called without the compiler requirement. So in Swift, it's impossible to call throwing function without marking the function that actually throws. So you need to use do catch or try optional. And with that, you declare that you specifically know what you're doing. With Dart, it's still possible to call the function that throws without actually knowing that it throws. And I stumble on this more than once. One more thing, Swift enums can hold different types of values for each case. This means you can have an enum where each option can carry its own special information. For example, if you're dealing with a task with your app, one case of enum might be for when task finished successfully and can hold a result, where other case might be when the task fails and can hold an error message or maybe nothing. Building robust types can involve writing significant boilerplate code to support hashability, equalability, and codability. By eliminating the complexity for the users, we make equatable, hashable types more appealing to the users, allow them to use their own types in context that requires equatability and hashability with no added effort on their part beyond declaring the conformance. But there's potential light in the tunnel. Dart macros might grow and could make coding even easier. If Dart macros end up working like Swift automatic features for making types that can be compared, hashed, encoded, and decoded, it would mean less repetitive code for developers to write. This change could make coding faster, cleaner, and less likely to have mistakes when defining types needed for these features. Dart macros developed because they could offer a smart solution to this common coding hassle. I was pleasantly surprised by the vibrant Flutter community. There is a lot of content out there on popular social media and blogs among the numerous actively maintained packages created by the community. Just by scrolling through my Twitter feed, it's nice to see people actively discussing and sharing wins, issues, and indeed ideas related to Flutter. Notably, it's not just individual contributors or small teams making waves into the Flutter space. Many larger service providers have recognized the value of Flutter and are now offering dedicated packages support to this framework. While these contributions are invaluable, it's important to approach them with an understanding that some of them may offer limited functionality compared to the fully featured counterparts. So, my 5 cents. In this world, there's no one tool that is best for everything. Let's consider an extremely simple example. A screwdriver is a highly useful tool. One might even say that they used it to chop down a large tree. While it's certainly possible for that specific task, there are probably much better tools available that can accomplish the same goal in less time and with less effort. So, broaden your horizons and explore how similar challenges are addressed within various technologies. By doing so, you can introduce more tools to your toolbox and use them to solve problems in a more optimal way. Yeah, so thanks. That's it from my side. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will try to answer as best as I can.
All right, thank you for your presentation. It was really good in my opinion. How did you feel about your first presentation?
Really nervous, like extremely nervous, yeah.
I mean, maybe in the next one in person, maybe in one of the upcoming Flutter conferences. What do you think? Or is it too soon?
We'll see how it goes.
All right. While we're on the topic about conferences, can viewers please share in the comments which Flutter conferences are you planning to attend to this year? Maybe we will meet in one of them. All right. I'll bring Igor to stage, and you can. I guess I'll go and just share some questions from the audience.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, thank you for your presentation, Jens. That was really cool for you to do also a debut in the Flutter community as one of the talks. So yeah, thank you. We have a question from Ivana. If you could bring one thing from native iOS development to Flutter, what would that be?
Oh, only one thing. Okay. Probably the error handling, because it's not just a nice feature, it's feature that helps us write a bit safer code, especially when in larger teams and when working with APIs that not always well maintained. So yeah, the requirements for error handling, marking throwing methods as throwing methods, and requirement to handle them all.
Okay, thank you. Now our question is, well, to you actually. So Jans, are you a native iOS developer, and which is better in terms of performance? So I guess so iOS or Flutter.
So it depends. If you create some simple animations, for example, simple bounce animation or single circle bounces, just you probably will not see a huge difference. Where the biggest difference I see in my personal testing, and where you try to incorporate native components, for example, native transition, some native lists. The native side just feels native. It feels a little bit better. I wouldn't say it's faster, but it feels familiar. Always when you are using these hybrid approaches, they might feel good, but they're a bit different than native. So I hope that answers the question. So it depends. I think good performance can be achieved with Flutter, but achieving the native feel is cool, a bit different topic and more complex task.
Thank you. Moving on to our next question. Did you try to use sealed classes as a substitution for Swift enums?
Yeah, actually that was I recently learned that, let's say that, but still, I think the enum approach is kind of familiar to me, and I already used it to solve many problems, and I would like to have this particular tool in Dart's arsenal as well.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, block is the best alternative to building large applications?
To be honest, I don't know. I at this only block. I have looked at the river pod, but I haven't done any extensive testing, so I don't know.
Okay. Any additional? Oh, okay. So, yeah, if you could bring one thing from Flutter to native iOS development, what would that be?
Oh God, that's easy. Like reliable and fast hot reload. Like application keeps its state, and I can change the UI in that particular spot where the bug is. It's just cool feature I would like to have.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, Jans, what? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so thanks, Manuela, as well. Yeah, it's also good to hear like more opinions about Flutter and Vim in general. So if there I do believe we have one more question. Yes. What is your opinion about how Flutter manage responsiveness?
I'm not sure I understand the question right. If the question impels the rendering engines, I may not know all the ins and outs to suggest or answer this question. I'm too new to Flutter to particularly suggest something.
Okay, thank you. So if there are no more questions, what was your favorite question from the list we selected? And again, as a reminder, sorry for interrupting. As a reminder, yeah, the best question will receive a ticket to the online conference.
So it's a close battle between first and righties, and I will go for the first one. Righties, sorry.
It's okay. I'll get over it. All right. I think that's about it for Jans. Thank you again.
Thank you too.
And let's. So our next speaker, Manuela, is an absolute superstar of Flutter community, and hopefully soon you will understand why. If you haven't heard her talk or met her in person yet, so this is your chance. Hi, Manuela.
Hello. Thank you so much. You put the expectation very high now, so I have to give my best.
Yeah, a lot of pressure, but I think you'll do just fine. I cannot
Great.
see your slides. Okay, I can
I think
see
you should
them.
see them now.
I can see them now, so I'll bring them up.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So if you're ready, I'll leave the stage to you. Good luck.
Thank you so much. So, first of all, this talk is aimed at Flutter beginners. So, if you have never worked with Flutter yet, this is hopefully a good resource for you to start out on it. So, one thing, my name is Manuela. I'm a Flutter developer, Women Tech Makers Ambassador, and also a co-organizer of the Meetup in Flutter Berlin. And I think we talked today a lot about what is Flutter already. So I think I can skip that part. So as Jans have said, Flutter is a multi-platform open source UI toolkit. So what we didn't talk about yet is the story of Flutter. So basically, Flutter was first unveiled at Dart Summit, and back then it was called Sky. So it has a different it had a different name, and the 1.0 version was announced in 2018 at Flutter Live. And in 2019, there was something called Flutter Interact, where the beta release of Flutter Web was first done. And in 2021, that was when Google really committed to web, and web was production ready. Also, basically, that took Flutter from cross-platform to multi-platform, which was an amazing turning point of the Flutter framework. And in 2023, so last year around this time, Flutter 3.7 was released, and Dart 3 Alpha was debuted. And with that, there was a lot of talk about the new rendering engine of Flutter, Impeller, which then sparked a lot of conversation about game development as a topic. And I think it was quite a big thing in Flutter last year and this year as well. So if we talk about Flutter in numbers, we can see that Flutter has gained a lot of popularity over the years. In 2023, there were over 1.1 million Flutter apps counted in Google Play Store and over 6 million Flutter developers. And Flutter is on top 8 of frameworks developers want to learn next. So maybe Jans was one of those people that wanted to learn Flutter as the next framework and voted for it. And if we look at Flutter in action, we can see that quite a lot of big companies are using Flutter, like Volt, Google Pay. Philips Hue is a popular app that people are talking about. Toyota uses it, BMW, and Alibaba. And now we want to know why all those people like Flutter. So what makes Flutter beautiful? So what makes Flutter framework different is it's multi-platform. That means you can write apps for iOS and Android. You can make a web app. You can make a desktop app, and also for embedded devices. Then Dart is specific to Flutter, I would say. So first of all, what is Dart? Dart is a language in which Flutter is written, and it's a language that you use to write Flutter in. And it is developed by Google, and Dart syntax may seem familiar to you if you know the programming language, Java, C#, or JavaScript. And Dart enables or has the ability to be JIT compiled, just-in-time compiled, and AOT compiled. Just in time means that you can do hot reload, what we just heard about, which really helps you to develop faster. Also, Dart is sound null safe. So for some people that may be new to development, what is sound null safety? Sound null safety helps us to write better code and have less error-prone development. So basically, Dart assumes your variables can't be null by default. What does that mean? Everyone in the stream has an age. So I have on this blue side of the slide the integer age 28. I'm 28 years old. And but not everyone in the stream has a favorite song. So we have to explicitly tell Dart, hey, the favorite song can be empty. And if you would have a user object and would try to access favorite song, it would give you those wiggly lines in your IDE that would tell you, hey, something's wrong here. You should do a null check before, otherwise you might have an app crash if it's null and you try to access it. So that is quite helpful for us as a developer. Then Flutter is fast. So we talked about hot reload before. Basically, you have real-time code changes, and hot reload preserves the app state, so you don't have to click through your app to go to that right state again. And that helps you to debug and develop a little bit faster. So I have made a little chart here, hot reload and hot restart. So basically, you start out with hot reload with an app with state, and you have code changes coming into the Dart virtual machine. And with hot reload, it rebuilds the widget tree, and in the end, you have an app with state and code changes, while as with hot restart, you have an app with state, code changes coming into the Dart virtual machine, and it restarts the app, and you have an app without state and code changes, and that's why it takes a little bit longer, but not as long as a real new build. Then the next thing is the performance advantage that we also talked about already. So basically with Flutter, there's no bridge or web browser technology involved. Flutter renders the app itself, and the app start is very quick. So you might have heard me talking about AOT before, which basically makes your app fast and responsive for users in production. So the app startup time is quite fast because Flutter apps run on natively compiled code. So the next topic that makes Flutter beautiful and different is that it's open source. So there's no magic involved. You can see how the framework is working internally, and you can also shape the framework yourself and help out. So let's talk about developer experience. Why is it so fun to work with Flutter? So we have talked about hot reload, then there are dev tools, there's a community that's nice, and Dart. So we can cross off hot reload and Dart from the list and go into DevTools and community. So DevTools are our everyday little helpers, and they let us look into our app and see what our app is actually doing while it is running. And they consist of an inspector, performance view, a CPO profiler view, memory view, network view, logger view, and a debugger. So I have made those are the Dart DevTools. You can find it usually in your IDE, and they really help you out in developing. So play around with that the next time you develop an app. The next thing that is beautiful about Flutter is the Flutter community. So check the chat and see who is there. A lot of people that are currently online are people that you see in conferences or in meetups, and the Flutter community exists online and also live. So feel free to check on Twitter or on different meetups and really make friends and learn from the others. It's a really nice place, and the whole community is trying to keep the Flutter community non-toxic, which is wonderful. Another part of the Flutter community is the Flutteristas. So Flutteristas is a group of female or non-binary Flutter developers. And why join? We have monthly meetings. You have Inside of Flutter by the Flutter team, and events like the Flutterista conference that happened in November. So Daria is a person that is also a Flutterista. I'm also a Flutterista. So if you're female or non-binary and want to learn more about Flutter and you like the Flutter SDK, feel free to join. And those community things are very special, I would say. So then there are drawbacks of Flutter. So everything that's positive has also some negative parts. I've heard that there are some new platform-specific features that may not be available instantly on Flutter, which might be a limitation of it. I never ran into it, but I have heard of one case. But yeah, it's pretty rare. And also Flutter Web is probably more something for specific cases. So if you have a strong app case and want a web app just to have it, it's not a big must, then maybe Flutter Web is nice. But if you have a strong web case, you have to really think of the need if you really want to go with Flutter Web or not with some traditional web framework. So let's go into the first steps of Flutter. So everyone who has worked with with Flutter knows this equation. UI is the function of state. That means that the UI is reflecting the state of your app, and Flutter is declarative. That means in Flutter builds its user interface to reflect the current state of your app. And basically that's also news for people that come from an imperative framework. because in Flutter it's okay to rebuild parts of the UI from scratch instead of modifying it, because Flutter is very, very fast. So, and because the UI reflects the state, state management is a huge topic in Flutter, to the point it became a running joke, because every beginner's first question is, which state management should I use? And if you look on the Flutter side, you can see how many solutions are actually described there and how many packages are mentioned there. So you can't skip over it. It's a big, big topic. And the reality of it is there is no one right magic trick way. You have to decide what works for you. You probably have to try a few state management solutions to see which one you like the most, and also to know what works for your project, for your architecture and your team the best. So basically for me, I use a lot in my projects Block. So a lot of companies I have worked in were using Block. So that's the thing that I'm most familiar with. And Block stands for Business Logic Components. It consists of events, states, and logic. So imagine we are on a login screen and we log in. And when we press the button, basically we trigger an event that says we want to log in. And then the logic does its thing, tries to log in, checks is the password right, and so on and so on. And then we decide, okay, was this like login successful or not? And depending on that, we basically send a state to the UI, to the UI, and the UI determines, okay, we are logged in, so I'm gonna build the successful login screen. So maybe you're in the profile then. So that is, for instance, a way Block would work, and I've used that in a lot of professional projects. Then one other key decisions that you make is architecture. And again, with architecture, it's a question that a lot of beginners always ask: what is the best architecture to build Flutter apps? And the reality is, again, like with the state management, there is no right way to do it. You have to decide what works for your project, for your team, and what you feel the most comfortable with. And I think the best thing is to just really try out different ways of doing things, maybe make an example app in different ways of architecture, and try out what you like the best and learn that. Then let's talk about testing. Testing is an important part of a development to ensure that the product you are shipping is working as expected. And the more features your app has, the harder it is to test manually. So to click around your app and check if something works or does not work. And if you automate it, then it saves both time and money. And Flutter provides a robust testing framework with different categories of tests one can write. So there are, for instance, widget tests. With widget tests, you can verify if the UI is behaving correctly, and you can even test the whole app, since everything you see in the app is a widget. So you can test the whole flow of your app. And then there's also unit tests, which usually tests a single unit, so a class, a function, a method. And the nice thing is they're pretty fast, and yeah, they are pretty easy to write. They are also sometimes affected by the state management solution you're using. For instance, if you use Block, then there's also a package called Block Test. Then we have integration tests, and integration tests is testing the whole app against the real backend. So they are a little bit more time consuming, and yeah, they are generally a little bit more expensive to run. Then there are golden tests on Flutter, which is testing the UI. So basically it takes a screenshot of your app and compares it to another screenshot, and checks if the pixels are correct. So debugging in Flutter, or how to be a detective. All developers need to be detectives sometimes. So how can you debug Flutter apps apart from the good old debugger we have in our IDE? I was talking before about the DevTools, and there's also the Flutter Inspector in the DevTools, which will show you how the UI is composed, and you can even jump to the specific line of code by clicking on this widget tree that is built. And you can even slow down animation from the Flutter DevTools to check if everything is working as expected. For me, a big part of my development process is also working with accessibility, and basically accessibility could be, like, one part of accessibility is a screen reader, which is a tool that visually impaired people use to really like navigate the app, and a semantic is basically the information the screen reader reads. And in Flutter, you can just set the show semantics debugger in a material app to true, and then you can see semantics and debug them as well. So that's quite nice. So let's talk about voices of the community. So I have one voice here from Alicia. Don't ignore native platforms. Basically, that means that you should be familiar with the platform-specific files like Android manifest and so on, since some things you need require like native setup. Then learn the fundamentals before jumping to advanced tools from Daria, which is a beginner tip and trick she mentioned to me, because sometimes when you're a beginner and you try to use a fancy tool, you might not really understand it, and you get disencouraged and maybe like not proceed with working on that specific topic. Then don't overthink, just build, is what Manfreda said. It's basically something that he noticed when he was working on a specific resource that I will share later, that a lot of people were trying to battle code demons before they appeared. That means they wanted the perfect state management, the perfect architecture, but basically did not start to build a project. So they didn't know what problems could like arise. Like they tried to look too much into the future. So they didn't really have an actual problem. So don't overthink, just build. Norbert Kajus said something similar, just get started and improve as you go. And here comes Manfreda's resource, which is flutterdesignpatterns.com. Take a screenshot of that now, because I will take it away, because it's a great resource for you if you're starting out on Flutter, or if you're also experienced, you will learn something new for sure. Then practice, practice, practice by Sasha, which makes sense. I think it is. It doesn't need really explanation. And Matteo said, Flutter developer is also a mobile web desktop developer. Know what you build. So basically, we are not only a mobile developer. If you're a Flutter developer, you can also be a web developer and a desktop developer. So it makes sense to learn the rules for those types of applications as well. And then I have a quote by a friend of mine who said, find an app idea you want to bring to life and build it, which is also true. Just find a topic that you are interested in, make an app out of it, and then just build. Don't overthink and try different things out. If you want to learn more about how to write Flutter apps, there's a great book called Flutter Engineering. It was released already. I had the honor to review one part of it, the accessibility part of this book, and I think it was it's a great resource if you're starting out in Flutter, or if you're also an experienced Flutter developer, to have some more knowledge, because you can always learn more. More learning you can find in podcasts like Flying High with Flutter. It's all widgets and creative engineering. Then there are streams and meetups. Of course, the Flutter community. Don't forget to make friends and learn from them, and read Flutter docs. So thank you so much for listening. And I would like to ask the organizers and Jans again back on stage, because I have an important question to ask them. And the question is, what would you want a beginner Flutter developer to know?
Right. Thank you for your presentation. Really good. Although technically I'm not a beginner anymore, there are definitely some things that I think could be super useful in my daily development process. So thank you for that. Maybe Daria, you can start by answering the question.
Well, I think I have quite a couple of tips, but one of them would be to definitely read the Flutter documentation. It's one of the best ones. And whenever you have a question, first reach to that and see examples there, because also there's a lot of links to good examples, because otherwise you can start learning from tutorials, get into specific libraries, specific third-party solutions, and so on, get confused and not understand like what is the best state management. Actually, there's the answer in the Flutter documentation. You should start with that and then build your knowledge on top of that.
Actually, also wanted to add to that. If you are going from another platform, you can also find in Flutter Dev Get Started tab. Basically, there's a like comparison which you can like use your existing knowledge to transfer it to Flutter knowledge, and then basically when you try building on, it basically gets you like a really good start. So again, if you're coming from something like other platforms, it's again best place to check Flutter.dev.
I mean, for me, actually, it's pretty difficult question because I haven't thought about it like at all. But I guess my advice would be, if it's possible, get a mentor, either online or in person if you're working like in a company environment. So that would really, really help. I guess that's it for me.
Yeah, also a very hard one for me because I was in an environment with a lot of experienced Flutter developers. So if I had some roadblocks, there was like instantly solved by the professionals. So probably will add to that Darius point. Even it's not just about Flutter. Even for example, you're using Block. There's a lot of examples already there in the docs how to solve or handle common situations. The list with different type of entries and stuff like that. Just go through and read it. It will probably make your Flutter experience a little bit better.
I also wanted to add one more thing is what I've noticed with beginners, especially the ones that I taught and myself also included, and it's not specific to Flutter, is that you get into this route of reading tutorials, watching videos, just consuming content, but you have to write code in order to learn to write code. You have to make mistakes, then learn from those mistakes from your own ones and not the ones like in the video, because you can't learn to code by just consuming the content. You have to consistently try with trial and error, and is the only real way to learn anything basically related to coding.
Yeah, I agree.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple at first. Don't try to introduce all the layers of the abstraction in your first project. You don't need that. Just make something that works and add those layers when they make sense and you need them. So that's one from my side. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you so much for doing this panel with me. It's very nice. So I always like that it's not only a one-woman show, but also that I hear like other developers, take on that.
While I'm on stage, I wanted to show one little thing, and while Manuela is here, look what I have. I still have this from Amsterdam. So Manuela made this for me, and I brought it back. It's from paper, and it's still alive. So yeah, I have this little Stark. I think it's Stark. Am I right? Is it in English called Stark? No.
It's called Kranich in German. I missed the word now in English.
Crane?
Yeah, crane. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Crane.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thanks. So yeah.
Okay.
Also, adding to this point, sorry, and to the tips, become part of the community, because community, especially the Flutter community, is super friendly. I've met a lot of people, made friends, and also got help and shared help. And this is a really great way to get started and get inspired also by what other people do and by the way they can help you.
All right.
Okay, I think the gist of all the thing is to not be perfect and just try out and making friends on the way.
Also, Igors and Rightis, we need to do the Q&A for Manuela, by the way, just so you remember.
I was trying to, I was really trying to. It kind of seems that there are not many questions left. As I can see, Ezra took over the chat and answered almost all the questions.
We can still hear Manuela's opinion about those questions.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, I got it.
Okay. So again, thank you for presentation, and let's jump into questions. So, in your opinion, what is the common mistake for most Flutter beginners to make?
I think the most common mistake is overthinking and not starting, because, or like as Daria just mentioned, getting into just tutorial hell and becoming a tutorial developer. So those are those two things that are probably the biggest mistakes, because you want to make mistakes as a beginner. You want to write this app that has too many layers of abstractions to go crazy and be like, oh no, this was not good. You want to make the mistakes to make a God class that does everything and make that mistake. You want to make those mistakes to learn from them, because I am a firm believer of like really seeing yourself, okay, that's a bad idea. That's not how I think code should be structured. So you understand it deeply, what you want to do and how it should maybe look like. And I think that's also something that mid-level seniors should take into account, make mistakes and learn from them. Because I'm sure that we all still have things where we can improve and learn. So make mistakes.
Thank you. One more. One thing about Flutter that you don't like, or necessarily, let's like rephrase it, what you would like in Flutter to be like improved, maybe?
So for me personally, I would like to have a little bit more documentation on accessibility features, because as I saw that there were some things still missing. But again, it's open source, so I can look through it, check how it works, and contribute myself. So basically, I could help shapeshift it. Also, one thing, I am a pure Flutter developer, so I had the luck that I was starting out with Flutter. I didn't code natively. So I do not sometimes know what I'm missing out, or what is a pain point, for instance, for Android developers. Like everyone is saying to me, oh yeah, you know, hot reload is so great and so amazing, and I'm like, yeah, I understand it's great, but I never had the pain of, like, you know, having no like building an app newly and losing all the state. Like I didn't have that pain that was the development process. So maybe I'm a little bit biased.
Thank you. If Flutter is so fast, then why we need external state libraries?
So basically, state libraries, as Ezra also said before, is how you basically manage your data flow, and less about speed. If it comes to just the question, why do you need external state libraries? I mean, you can also use set state, but like state libraries should make it easier for you to handle and scale your state management in an app. So I hope this answers the question.
Next question up is, yeah, for all of us, basically, how much code coverage is good? If it's fine, so who will answer this first? Or
probably
okay,
you mean test. Yeah, probably it's meaning test coverage, or
test coverage.
Well, it depends on the project, right? So basically in projects that I have worked on, we try to really like have the main flows really tested well. I don't know how it is for you. It's also depending on if it's like a business, you want to make a business decision, like testing is great because you basically already see if you refactor something, if you broke something, so you don't have those or not as many regression bugs or something. So yeah, like I don't know what your take is on that, but as much as you can, yeah, tell your business.
I would also
I
like
think
to
if
add to that.
you're from very good ventures, sorry.
Yeah.
If you're from very good ventures, then 100% is good enough and no less than that. But if you're like an indie developer like me, then 0% is also good enough because you don't have time for that. But no, of course, I agree with that as much as possible, as much as makes sense. And also don't just run after the coverage, but also cover the things that make sense and that actually needs testing and not just coverage.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to add. So basically write meaningful tests, which will bring value to like make sure that the functionality you're testing, if it accidentally breaks, you will see it, not just basically to chase coverage. But yeah. Another question is, how can juniors start contributing to Flutter? Which topics should they look into before submitting their first pull request?
To be honest, I think there are even places where you contribute just like documentation, right? Which would be maybe also like a starting point. I think there was even like a filter of some sort to check how difficult one problem is. I think there's like a tag if an issue is good for like first time contributors in the Flutter repo. I personally must also say I have never contributed to the Flutter framework. I did talks, I did a lot of community stuff, but to the Flutter framework itself, I never contributed. I'm not sure if any of you have contributed before and have some tips on that.
I haven't, but I know that Taha is a great contributor to Flutter community, and I think recently he had a stream, and also he writes a lot about that on Twitter, and he had a stream, and I believe also other talks about, so you can follow Taha. I think we need to find his link for Twitter, and I will share it in chat in the YouTube comments in a second, but yeah, follow him and listen to him, and he has a lot of input on contributing to the Flutter framework.
Another question is, Flutter easy to update for is Flutter easy to update third-party dependencies and I mean errors native side?
So I assume you have like a package of some sort, maybe that is in pubdev that uses a third party, maybe. So you can always fork that and like adjust it to your needs and use it. But I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question correctly. Yeah. But I mean, you can do native stuff with Flutter as well. You just need to know native code, which I don't know because I'm a Flutter developer, so I know setup things, but I've never coded an app from scratch, iOS or Android.
Another question is, there's a bit of conflicting information around how popular Flutter is in the industry. There's a school of thought that despite Flutter's excellence performance-wise, it still lags behind React Native, etc.
So honestly, I don't have a statistical number right now, but what I can assume is there are a lot of React developers out there, and maybe switching from React to React Native is easier. And some companies are like, hey, I have a dev team full of React developers. Why not making an app in React Native? So a friend of mine, she was always very interested in Flutter, and she started out as a React developer for some reason. And in her like company, they wanted to build an app, and there was a question, Flutter or React Native, and they chose React Native because their dev team could code in React. So that was like an easy like thought process of them. So I can assume that maybe this is the reason why React Native might be very popular for some things, just because you have already in-house devs that can code in that very quickly.
I want to chip in with some numbers, if that's okay. So according to App Figures, Flutter apps in Play Store for Android apps have now surpassed React Native apps. That's one. Flutter is one of the top 3, I think, repositories on GitHub for the number of contributors. Also, the last time I checked, Flutter has surpassed React Native in Google Trends and Stack Overflow searches. So I guess that's already a little bit of numbers that confirm that Flutter is in fact really popular among developers. And yeah. Yeah, so there can't be a single event where I am and Cass are not mentioned. It's just not possible, sorry.
Yeah, I guess that's it for the questions.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So then, Manuela, what was your favorite question?
I think I liked Ivana's question. In your opinion, what is a common mistake that most Flutter beginners make?
That's great, but Ivana has already won a ticket,
Yeah,
so we need another question.
Okay, Ivana, very great question. So then I think Shaha asked a lot of questions. So yeah, I think I would give it to Shaha.
All right, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you all.
Okay, thank you. So now just a couple of last words. Where are my slides? Can you show my slides, please?
Yep.
Oh. Sorry. So yes, a couple of last words. For everyone who did not win a ticket, we have a 25% off code for a full access ticket on Flutter Global Summit. Use Flutter Speaker when you're purchasing your ticket. That's one. And also follow us everywhere. And for the people who have won tickets, please contact us either in direct messages if we already know each other, or by, I think the easiest way is in Flutter Riga email by using that. So just, yeah, ping us. Yes, and thank you to speakers. Thank you for organizers. Thank you for attendees. It was a great event. I think a lot of people got inspired to start their journey with Flutter, and also it is recorded. So if you want to share it with anyone who's also still interested in starting with Flutter, feel free to do that.
Yes, thank you, everyone, and see you soon.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you all.
Bye-bye.
And for the winners, we will contact you soon. So thank you all.
Bye.